Good day. Welcome to AWS Educate Introduction to the AWS, what the AWS Educate is, and how you as an AWS educator, being a lecturer, can make use of this during this COVID lockdown period. We had to discover many little things and best practices and how one could continue with um, these courses, mostly practical courses, and how you could evolve your practical your practical labs where you were dependent on computer labs, where you were dependent on resources in a lab, software resources, how you could use AWS Educate and its third-party virtual labs, how you could use that and continue with your practical part of your course. So this is just to show you guys how to use AWS Educate, as you can see there, and yeah, just to show you guys what it's all about. Okay, so we're gonna look at the AWS Educator Classroom Guide, as you guys can see here. So as an AWS Educator, you can sign up an account by going to awseducate.com. You can log in there or create an account. The cool thing about AWS Educate is that you can work, and students can work on AWS projects without the need to apply any credit card. So that is why this is good, because students don't need to add any credit cards, they need to add any information. Everything is free for them. I'll explain to you how this whole process works. So you basically go create a classroom. You request classroom credits as well. Normally you could get $50. That is credits to run your application or whatever you're going to do on AWS Cloud. And then you then set up your classroom, where you now basically choose a cloud setup. You could go for AWS Cloud Basics or any of these, but you can choose a predefined set of three cloud formats or setups that you want, or you can just keep to the minimum ones that you want. The step 2 part would be where you would then create your classroom, you give it a name, you provide the amount of the course number, the amount of students that will join, and how many credits you would need for this. So in this case, if we were to zoom in here, you can then see that in this case, as example, $10 was needed for this course, and there's the course name and the course link, where to find it and things like that. So if I go down, you would see then there's an option after you've created your class. You have an option to upload all the email addresses of your students, right? Either by a CSV, or you could just add it also as part of the drop-down list inside a column, a tab that you have to complete that. You then allow 3 to 4 business days to wait for that to be reviewed. As educator, they need to review that you're an educator and to validate your class and the quiz. And then when you're done and you've waited your 3 to 4 days, you will then see your course appear here in the course name, and the status would be approved. In this case here, you will see an example that this is not approved, so this is still in the waiting period. Right? If you look at this one has been approved and activated. That's why it shows go to classroom. So this is just 2 examples of classrooms, and you can see here the amount of students that it's invited for and how many students was joined the classroom. Also the start and end date of the course, very important. Here you can see this is the filtering of the emails that were sent to students, and also showing you if a student accepted, it will be shown as removed. If a student was invited and didn't accept yet, then you would then see that you need to either click on resend the invite, or you can't remove the student, unfortunately, because you invited the student. So the student either have to re-invite, or you can afterwards remove them. Next thing is where the students have to go, or you have to go to the classroom. So you can then go into the classroom that you created, and then in the classroom you have to accept the agreement, because now you're going to go to Vocarium Classroom, which is the third party that Amazon used to run our virtual labs. Then after that, you click on Dashboard. By Dashboard, you then will then see all your list of students here if you click the drop down list. Right? So this is where you will see activity and work area. Activity will show you the activity of the instance, what the students did in the activity. And this is for you to track the progress. And by classroom status, you will then see student details here, the amount of credits remaining as the students start an instance and stop an instance, because it's a proper link. But this is free credits the student get, what you applied for. So you can also apply for up to $50. You don't need to apply for 10. And also the session time that the student spent on the session. After that, you can then click on AWS Console. The AWS Console will take the student to the AWS Console, where the student would experience the same console that you would experience as a paid AWS customer. Here the student can then start up his instances or what you need to do, and this is just depending on what you're going to do with your course, right? So that is just give you an overview of what AWS Cloud is. Right, so now you've learned and gave you an overview of what AWS Cloud is and how you as an educator can set it up from scratch. Two things you need to know: that if you apply for the credits, you need to wait 3 to 4 working days or business working days for AWS support to activate your classroom. And as soon as your classroom is activated, you can go into your classroom and activate it so that the students can see the console and have access to the console, and they can start using the free credits that's available to them. Other thing is that if you send an email to a student, the student will get an invite to his chosen email address that you send it to. So most probably you would choose the university email address for the student, that you keep it constant, or you could use the student's personal or private email addresses, and then the student will get a notification sent to them to activate his or her account. Yeah, thank you. Alright, so next we're going to look at using AWS, signing into an AWS Educate account, and just to give you an overview and show you in real time what it looks like, and show you a demo class or a real class, just to explain to you what AWS Educate is and how to connect to a student's instance or to view the student's activity and to monitor his status. Okay, thank you. Right, so now we can see this is the login of your AWS Educate. So we're going to sign into our AWS Educate account, and then it will present you with a login. In this case, our credentials already saved, so we'll just sign in. Then the next step would be this is what you will present it as educator. Next things, you can go to your classroom, or you can go request credit. So this is as you saw in the overview, the first part. So if you go to my classrooms, this will then take you to my classrooms, and then you can now see that yes, your classrooms, in this case I've got 2 classrooms I've created, and each student have $50 to do an instance. So I'm going to go to one of my classrooms, and then I'll get this accepting the third-party content provider with Vocarium, and I'll say continue, and this will take me now to my educated classroom environment for the student. Right, so as this loading, it will sign me into Vocarium as an educator to see my virtual lab. Right, so now you can see here's all your students, right? And then here you can go to any of these students and you can go monitor the details. So if I go to the student here, which is now me, and I click on activity, you will then see the activity of the student, what the student has done thus far. on his activity, and this is where you can monitor the student is actually doing or accessing things, right? And what has been done on the user profile as well. Okay, so if you finish watching the activity, you can go back to the dashboard, and then you can now either go select the student again and then go to the work area. So by clicking on the work area, that will then log you into AWS Console. So here you can see that there's your access. There's the remaining credits of this particular user. So 48.8 credits, and that is minus the 50 credits that was given. That's the time that the student spent it. And then here you can then go and log into the AWS Console. So we're going to log into this console just to show you what it looks like. So in the console, it will present it like your exact AWS console that you would get if you had to be an AWS subscriber or customer, and you would see the same exact thing that every AWS customer would see, and this is what our students are going to be exposed to. So here you have an option as educator. Now the part with the AWS console, let me explain that to you. So the AWS console is used to start up instances, run all your programs or development programs, what you're busy with, on the cloud computing model of AWS, and also to simulate any lab environment you want to do. So yes, you need to start learning the terminology of all these instances, the names of it, abbreviations to understand your pathway, and there is also self-study guides and videos and tutorials how to go about and getting to understand how that works. Okay, so what we're going to look at is the fact that EC2 is your holistic compute service. So normally under compute, this is what you would do if you want to start up a virtual machine, and in this case we're going to look at how we can use this as best practices, right? So by starting up an EC2 instance, you can choose an operating system. What you want it to do, you can modify it, customize it the way you want it to be, and also remember that you're going to have to remote log into this instance via external way of logging in. So in this case, we have an instance running already. Now we don't have any running instances, but what we did in this case, we created an AMI. Now AMI is almost like a master image, and the AMI will allow you as the educator to create an instance, modify, customize the way you want it to be, and it would obviously be shown as a public image, and it will be listed under all of these. So if you say owned by me or private, it would have listed your instance, but because you made it public, in this case we made it public, I'll have to find it and it's somewhere listed here as one of the public images. And this is a way where your students can take that public image, build it, create a new instance, and use your master image to do what they need to do instead of creating everything from scratch. So this is a way where you can set up a test environment, even as a Windows operating system virtually. Set up your, let's call it, if it's a IntelliJ Java program that the students need to set up, or a NetBeans program, or a packet tracer where they need to configure a certain environment, or any particular practical thing that you want to do physically in a lab. You can then use this and set up your main image, set up a test environment, and then let the student use and pull the AMI. And by saving it as an AMI, as a public image, the student can use that. Use your private key that you would assign to the instance for the students to log in. The students can then either, if it's Linux, log in via PuTTY through the network to get to his instance, or via remote desktop if it's a Windows instance with the private key to assign and to log into that. So I'm going to quickly show you how to set up a quick Windows image, and just to show you how you can do this. Alright, so in this case what we'll do is we'll click on launch instance, and then we'll choose a couple of instances that we want to use. We're looking at Windows, so we're going to go and look at the Windows. That's a Windows server, see if you can find the Windows 10 image. Server. So if you don't find it here, you can also go to the community AMIs, and you could then go to Windows, and then Windows will present you a list of all the Windows AMIs. And if you look at it, there's a Windows Server, there's Windows 10. So as you can see here, there's nothing under Windows 10 because these are all ready-made images. So what we can look at, we can also go to the Aws Marketplace. And in the Marketplace here, you will also find images. So we could search Windows 10 and see if it brings up anything for us. There we go, we've got information systems from Windows 2019. We've got a desktop image from Windows 2017, 2019, 12. No Windows 10. Let's continue our search.